Alright, what's up guys? It's me Tim again, back again, rebooking WrestleMania. Playing the armchair quarterback. Hindsight being 2020. We're taking the WrestleMania pay-per-views, how they were, with the same exact cast of characters and list of talent that are on the show, and we're just rearranging the matches a little bit if we could, rebooking it a little bit to try to make the card more interesting in my liking. If you're keeping track, WrestleMania 1 in this new rebooking of WrestleMania universe, instead of being Hogan and Mr. T versus Piper and Orndorff, was main evented by Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant against Roddy Piper and his enforcer King Kong Bundy. And Mr. T and Bob Orton had a match by themselves earlier in the card. WrestleMania 2, we saw the blow-off, the big split between Hogan and Andre. Now it's a year earlier than it would have been in real life, okay? We skipped the whole Bundy pay-per-view. We utilized Bundy with Mr. T in WrestleMania 2 against Piper and Bob Orton, as, you know, now Piper and Bundy had a feud. Turned Bundy for a face a little bit. We're going to turn him heel again in the following year. WrestleMania 3, we had Hogan and Piper finally now teaming up after all these years of fighting in the main event, taking on Don Morocco and Bob Orton. Again, you got to watch those videos to see the context. And then WrestleMania 4, we still had Macho Man and DiBiase in the main event, but just the tournament bracket was a little different. Now here we are, this is WrestleMania 5, so we're rebooking WrestleMania 5 here. Okay, let's see. So here we go. So WrestleMania 5 in the opening match now. In reality, we saw Hercules defeat King Haku. In my rebooking here with WrestleMania 5, I got Hercules going over the Brooklyn Brawler. The Brooklyn Brawler, in reality, later on in the show, was basically just used to put over... he was just even with Bobby Heenan. I don't even think he wrestled in a match. He's in Bobby Heenan's corner when Bobby Heenan loses to the Red Rooster. So let's actually get Brawler in a match, and he's the king of Steve Lombardi. He's the king of opening matches. So Hercules, if they want to make him look strong, the big muscly bodybuilder guy comes out first, gets a clean win. All right, in my next match now, I have the Twin Towers defeating the Bushwhackers in my second match. In reality, the Twin Towers defeated the Rockers. I'm a huge Rockers fan. They're my favorite, lightweight, cruiserweight tag team of all time. I always like seeing them get their comeuppance. They didn't get a lot of big, huge wins. If you think about it on pay-per-views, they never had a big run with the tag titles. They had the whole mishap with the tag titles and the rope break thing. Shawn would obviously go on to have his career. And Marty got a little bit of success with the, Intercontinental title, short Intercontinental title run and a couple of short tag title runs. But it would have been nice to see the Rockers have a big, cool WrestleMania moment. And, they got squashed, basically, not squashed, but they got beat by the Twin Towers here. Again, that's a very big size disadvantage. So instead, I'm going to have Twin Towers still going over strong, looking good as a killer tag team. But here they beat the Bushwhackers because the Bushwhackers job to everybody anyway. And, in reality, they actually got a big WrestleMania moment at this WrestleMania by beating the Rogeau brothers. But here I got them losing. All right, in my next match, I have Jake the Snake Roberts and Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, going to a double countout. Now, if you're keeping up with me, in the previous WrestleMania rebooking, I had Ted DiBiase beating Jake the Snake Roberts in the quarterfinals of the tournament, which they could have had. Again, those guys put on a good match together, solid back and forth, good psychology and stuff like that. And maybe DiBiase cheats to get the win. Maybe here, now this is a year later, it's a rematch. Maybe they've been feuding the whole year since then or something. And in reality, they had Jake Roberts beats Andre in reality by disqualification, which again, if you see my previous video, Andre and Jake, I had it already happened at last year's WrestleMania due to how my storylines worked out. But again, now this way, if you got both guys doing a double countout, you don't have to have Jake lose twice in a row. Maybe they're still trying to keep heat on DiBiase. Give it to them both. They could have a big brawl and then whatever, double count My next match, I had now the Rockers defeat the Rogeau brothers. To me, that makes more of a, you know, would you rather watch the Bushwhackers defeat the Rogeau brothers in real life? Bushwhackers were mainly a comedy act meant for the little kids in WWF at the time. Rogeau brothers are an extremely talented group. And then you got the Rockers, you know, probably arguably the best lightweight tag team at the time, against two of the biggest guys in the company, and Akeem and the Big Boss Man, the Twin Towers. You know, let the guys work that can work. I put the Rockers and the Rogeaus together in a match with the Rockers going over, because you could probably get a very athletic, good back and forth, fast-paced, you know, 4-star match maybe out of those guys. All those guys really knew how to work, and we didn't again see a lot of we didn't see a Rockers and Rogeau brother tag team match, at least on any pay-per-view back then. They might have done house shows and maybe a main event or something like Saturday night's main event. But here, this is a big stage for them. They could have put on a good performance, and boom, I think that would have worked out good. Next match, I have Mr. Perfect going over the Blue Blazer. That still happened in real life. Owen Hart, obviously, rest in peace. He's portraying the Blue Blazer character there. So that's a good thing. They're making Mr. Perfect strong. In real life, he got 5.5. It was a 5.5 minute match. That sounds about right. You know, guys get to do a little bit back and forth, show some athleticism, not get Kurt too tired, and Kurt goes over and still stays strong. All right. My next match, I have, now here's a change-up. I have Bad News Brown and Brutus Beefcake going to a double disqualification. Now you may be saying, hey, Roberts and DiBiase go to a double countout, and now Bad News Brown and Brutus Beefcake, wait a minute, how do they even have a feud, and now they're doing a double DQ? Maybe you could say that you could have Jake Roberts go over clean on DiBiase, especially if DiBiase won the previous year in the tournament at WrestleMania to advance in the title. So, you know, if I got it, you know, I wrote these a while ago. Maybe if I got it as a double counter here, let's say Roberts goes over, that could be an option. But here, Bad News and Brutus Beefcake going to a double disqualification. Brutus Beefcake and DiBiase had a double count out. That's where I took into effect, I guess, one of the schmaz finishes that they're going to do here. Again, people hate finishes, like non-decision finishes on pay-per-views. They feel like if you pay for a pay-per-view, you should see a pay-per-view and you know, a pay-per-view ending, not a double count out or a double disqualification or a draw. Here, I guess in reality, they wanted Brutus Beefcake and DiBiase both to look strong, and Bad News Brown and Hacksaw Jim Duggan ended in a double disqualification, and that was only a 3-minute match. So it wasn't a lot of storyline built up there too. But let's save DiBiase for Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts in reality wrestles Andre at this WrestleMania, which in my fantasy booking said already happened the year before, so we can skip that. Let's have Bad News and Beefcake work together, and then they, you know, maybe this way this gives Beefcake makes him look a little tougher working with a guy like Bad News. And, you know, they could still do maybe a 3-minute match, so it wouldn't be too harrowing on either one of those guys. All right, next up, I have Demolition defeat the Powers of Pain for the tag titles. That's still what happened in real life, too. Demolition were the tag champs coming into this. Powers of Pain are the challengers. Powers of Pain got Mr. Fuji now. There was the big double turn at Survivor Series, I think, leading up to this. So let's keep that the same. Powers of Pain get a nice title shot on a big pay-per-view. They don't win it, unfortunately, but you still get that payday. Next up, I got Dino Bravo beats the Red Rooster. In looking over this now, Dino Bravo in reality beat Rugged Ronnie Garvin in 3 minutes. I don't think I didn't even work Ron Garvin onto this card. Now again, I'm using all the people that were still there. Not using everybody maybe if I didn't have to. I'm just not including anybody extra. If they're going to have a squash match for Dino Bravo, I know Red Rooster did not get any sort of push anywhere. I'm surprised. It's surprising to me that Red Rooster gets he gets a 30-second match. It's the Let Me Up match right before Hogan and Savage as the main event in reality. Red Rooster gets a 30-second win over Bobby Heenan with the Brooklyn Brawler in his corner. in reality. So that's sort of like a WrestleMania moment. You could say Terry Taylor has his WrestleMania moment. For me, though, here, again, they got the big, muscly Dino Bravo bodybuilder-looking guy. I'm going to have him squash Red Rooster, just like Rooster got squashed mainly on all those other pay-per-views back then. Keep him looking strong. My next match now, I got the Brainbusters defeating Strike Force. Okay, so in reality, the Brainbusters defeated Strike Force. Same thing. We're just keeping that the same. That actually happened. They got 9 minutes. Bobby Heenan's managing the Brainbusters. Strike Force are still together. This is the breakup. Yeah, I think this is the breakup of Strike Force when Martel walks out on Santana and starts that feud. So let's keep that exactly the same. If that's the right, I'm pretty sure that's the right thing. I should have researched a little more. But yeah, there's nothing you need to change about that angle whatsoever. All right, in my next match, I got Andre now defeats Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Andre and Hacksaw, I know, work together a ton of times. Back and forth, probably all over the country, maybe even all over the world. Andre was face in WrestleMania 1. He's been a heel in my fantasy bookings now ever since then. He's still a heel here. He wins at WrestleMania... no, he loses at WrestleMania 2 in the main event to Hogan. But then he wins at WrestleMania 3 against Jake Roberts. He loses in the tournament at 4. Here we are 5. I'm going to have him beat Hacksaw again. You know, they just had Hacksaw in reality, and bad news go to a double DQ. So let's have some, maybe Hacksaw gets injured. Hacksaw was always getting injured by somebody. You know, have it be a bigger storyline and give Andre another win. Make it, you know, so now he's almost Mr. WrestleMania back then. My next match, I got Hart Foundation versus Rhythm and Blues. Hart Foundation and Rhythm and Blues, that was, again, the same thing. We're keeping that tag match. That happened in reality. They got 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Hart Foundation win. Again, Rhythm and Blues is Greg Valentine and Honky Tonk Man. Keeping that match the same. My 11th match, now again, and maybe this isn't the best order because I got the Intercontinental title match going on right before the World title match. But that's just how I would book it, you know, seeing it in order of importance of matches and not throwing those let-me-up matches in between. I have Rick Rude defeating Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental title. Keeping that exactly the same, how they did that with Bobby Heenan and the foot on the thing and stuff like that. Ultimate Warrior loses the belt. Big first pinfall loss, I guess, and stuff like that. Keeping it the same. And then WrestleMania 5 main event, I got the same thing. Hulk Hogan beats Randy Savage for the title. Again, in my last review, in my last rebooking, I still kept Randy Savage winning the title at WrestleMania 4. This being WrestleMania 5, do the same exact thing with the Mega Powers exploding, just like Andre and him at WrestleMania 1. They come out victorious, but then the following year, boom, they got a match against each other, just like this. Now Hogan helps Macho win the title WrestleMania 4, just like in reality. Here we are 5, the Mega Powers explode, and Hogan beats Randy Savage, wins the world title back. Now I'm going to go into WrestleMania 6 again. WrestleMania 6 now. Let me just pull up this other stuff. Alright, so WrestleMania 6, yeah, and the Sky Dome. In reality, again, one of the biggest, one of my favorite main events of all time, Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. I feel like the brightness is too much, oh, maybe not. Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior, it didn't get much cooler than that. And you'll see I kept the main event the same, obviously because it was such a cool main event. But you'll see how I changed it up a little bit. All right, in the curtain jerker, I got Paul Roma defeats Brooklyn Brawler. That's what happened in real life too. Paul Roma, Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi, they're two, like, you know, quintessential first match dudes, dark match dudes, opening guys, curtain jerkers, whatever you want to call it, but solid hands. That's why they always got that spot. That's a very important spot sometimes to get the crowd going and stuff like that, most of the time, you know. Second match, I got Rick Martel defeating Jimmy Superfly Snuka. In reality, Rick Martel beat Coco Beware. I'm going to use Coco Beware down the line somewhere else. And Jimmy Superfly Snuka, in reality, he loses to Rick Rude in the Let Me Up match right before the main event in a little less than 4 minutes. So if you're going to job out Jimmy Snuka to Rick Rude down the line, I'm just shifting him around. Maybe move him down the card or give somebody else with a little, maybe, you know, somebody else that I could get a better match going or something, better, fit better, you know, can get moved down. So Martel goes over Jimmy Snuka in the second match. In the third match, I have Earthquake defeats Hercules. Earthquake defeated Hercules, same thing in real life. We're going to keep that exactly the same, just under 5 minutes. Same thing, squishes them, big chest compression thing. I think Hercules, and again, if you're following, Hercules had been made strong the year before. He got a win. You know, he's coming off of last WrestleMania. He just had this big win. They're trying to make Earthquake look like a monster here, so he squishes the mighty Hercules. My next match, I'm keeping it the same. I got Demolition defeats Colossal Connection for the tag titles. Title switch here. Andre, again, he's been crushing WrestleManias. He's still a heel. He's with the Heenan family. He's got the tag titles now with Haku. They're coming in as champs. They lose to Demolition, who are the face team. Demolition were the champs at last year's WrestleMania too, so they're kind of holding down that tag team WrestleMania spot. I'm going to keep that the same. Next match, I'm also keeping the same. Bad News Brown and Roddy Piper go to a double count out, I guess. Yeah, you call it. They were a count out in real life, not disqualification. Keep it the same thing. They just brawl out in the stands. It's always fun to see that too. You know, even if it's not a great finish or whatever, that people will complain about not seeing a definite close or whatever. Seeing two guys just beating the heck out of each other and then falling over the ropes together and fighting all the way to the back and not even caring about the bell or the ref counting or anything like that. I always think that that's cool. It's like a Western fight. You know, it's like a fight scene in a movie. All right. Next match, I have Jake Roberts defeating Mr. Perfect. So in this WrestleMania, in reality, Brutus that barber Beefcake, defeated Mr. Perfect and gave him his first loss. Mr. Perfect had been undefeated, I guess, in the company at this time under this gimmick. And everybody was so mad that Brutus was the guy to dethrone him. And they said that the only reason why he got the spot to do that was because Hulk Hogan obviously was his best friend. In my reality here, I'm going to have Jake Roberts be that guy that beats him for the first time instead of Brutus Beefcake. We'll use Beefcake down the line. Yeah, we'll use Beefcake down the line, but not here and not for that spot that takes the first perfect win. We'll have Jake Roberts do that because nobody gets up from the DDT. And again, keeping him still as a big, strong main event type player. My next match, I got Hart Foundation defeating the Bolsheviks. They did the same thing. That's in real life too. In real life, they only wrestled for 19 seconds. I'll say that again. The Hart Foundation, Bret Hart, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, in his WrestleMania match at WrestleMania 6, wrestled 19 seconds against Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov. So maybe I'd have them wrestle a little longer than 19 seconds, but I still keep that same thing. Maybe, you know, glorified squash match, 3 minutes maybe. Come out, bing, bang, boom, heart attack, you know, call it a day. My next match, I have Barbarian defeats Tito Santana. Happen in reality, keep it the same. Again, it seems like, you know, back then they just threw as many guys as they could on the card, all of their big stars, big guy versus little guy or big guy versus big guy. That's what they were trying to probably do in reality. Tito could work with anybody. Barbarian was a big, scary monster, bodybuilder looking guy. Well, of course, why isn't he going to squash this smaller guy? So we'll have the Barbarian go over there. I think that works too. My next match, I have the Rockers defeating the Orient Express. Again, I'm a little partial to the Rockers. I think they are still one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And in reality, the Orient Express beat the Rockers here by count out. And it was the beginning of I believe this was the beginning of the end for them with the breakup. Salt in the eyes, maybe he goes over the banister and can't get back over because he's blinded now, and now he's over the guardrail. And then the leg injury, you know, and Sean gets hurt, you know, around SummerSlam time and stuff. I think this is all of that working into it. So I can see why they had in reality the Orient Express go over, but I'd keep the Rockers, maybe the Rockers winning, just because you know, if I'm the booker and it's my choice, that's what I would do. I think the Rockers are awesome, and I'd put them over, and then maybe they start the breakup shortly after that. Maybe they're celebrating the win, and that's when they start to break up. Next match on my card, I got Dusty and Sapphire defeating Macho Man and Sherry. That's happened in real life. The mixed tag team match, we'll keep it the same thing. Again, that was a great storyline, great feud, money feud, talk people into the buildings, I guess. Sherry and Sapphire, that's awesome. So keep that the same. Next match, I got Dino Bravo defeating Coco Beware. In reality, Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeats Dino Bravo. And in reality, we saw Coco Beware get defeated by Rick Martel. I'm going to switch it up again. Let's keep the big, strong action movie guys, bodybuilder looking juice heads like Dino Bravo. Let's keep them looking strong. He puts over Coco Beware. Coco Beware was a big guy too, but he was shorter and stuff. So have him have a match, and Dino Bravo goes over. And yeah, that's how I would book it. Maybe it's a short match too, whatever. It doesn't have to be super long. Another let me up match. Next one I got is Big Boss Man versus Akeem, with Big Boss Man emerging victorious. Again, that's the same thing. They had a 2-minute match. That was a good storyline. That was when Boss Man was turning face now, and that team broke up, which maybe could have started after last year's WrestleMania, or you know, no, I guess that was a couple years before. Never mind. But yeah, Boss Man turning face. Twin Towers break up. Maybe they wrestle a little longer than 2 minutes, but I'd keep that the same. Next up, I have Ted DiBiase defeats Hacksaw Jim Duggan for the $1 Million belt. Ted DiBiase wrestled Jake Roberts for the $1 Million belt in reality. Again, I had that the previous year, not for the $1 Million belt. Or maybe they could have done it for the $1 Million belt, and that's why they had the count out, or a double count out. And I also had them at WrestleMania 4, so you didn't need to have that match here. I'd have DiBiase defeating Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Again, maybe he cheats. You didn't have to put the $1 Million belt on Duggan, obviously. Still keep DiBiase's heat. You know, you can have it at that spot, and everybody's still, you know, mad about it and, you know, yelling at the referee. Second to last match, I have Ravishing Rick Rude defeating Brutus Beefcake. Again, if you want Beefcake to be Hogan's boy, or if Beefcake's getting special treatment for stuff like that, in reality he's beaten Perfect for the first time, let's stick him in the match right before the main event. You know, he doesn't go over because Rick Rude was obviously a former Intercontinental Champion. He had won the Intercontinental Champion at the previous WrestleMania, was also in the match before the main event. Maybe he cheats. Again, you know, that's a very heel thing to do back then. And you have him go, you know, he gets a nice right before everybody's getting ready for Hogan and stuff like that. And Rick Rude gets to still look good, and Beefcake gets a nice payday. And then in main event, I've got, again, nothing that I would change. Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. One of the greatest main events, I think, that they could have done. Two of the biggest stars that ever were. It's fortunate that we were able to have seen that match and for them to put that on. That was probably both of those guys, my favorite match from both of those guys. They never really worked harder, I feel like, in a match between, you know. Name another great Hogan match, you know, unless it's one of his Japan matches or something like that, where he's like, you know, really working like that. In the Warrior too. Most of Warrior's matches are 2 minutes long, and two good guys, and they're hugging in the end, and it was title. Vince said they tried to say that it wasn't. Like, if Hogan won, it wasn't really title for title. They called it title for title, but it was title versus title. I think it's weird how they worded it. They did say, like, title versus title. So that doesn't mean, I don't know. There's weird things with that where the backstory is that Vince was, no, Hogan wouldn't have got the Intercontinental title. Only Warrior would have got the world title. I don't know. You can listen to Conrad's podcast about that, though. But yeah, that's how I would booked it. That's WrestleMania 5 and 6. I'm going to keep going. I got a couple more of these. Hopefully somebody sees this, you know, a time or two and you agree or you disagree, comment and tell me what you think about it down below. And we'll go from there. All right. Thanks for watching.